David, welcome to the Sipping Point.
Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to talk to you all about your company, Glasvin, and your wine glassware. I think the listeners know that I beat this probably too much of this drum about how important the wine glass is to the tasting experience. So I'm excited to talk to you about that. But I'd love to start with, I know you used to manage hedge funds, you were a finance guy. And how does a guy in finance end up making wine glassware? What is your wine story?
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if I was managing them or if they were managing me, but I was in New York, center of finance, and also funny enough, the center of wine, and I was drinking a lot of wine, in spite or because of the finance, I don't know, but and then I was using a lot of nice glassware as well, and I think that was what drove me to it. I just thought the market for the wine glasses wasn't complete. It wasn't we have a lot of representatives in New York and the US in general for nice glassware, but no one was really doing it in a direct to the consumer kind of a way, in a way where you would be able to decrease the price but also improve the service that you're offering to the customer. And that innovation was already made in a lot of other sectors. So that's kind of what drove the idea.
Great. And of course, some of the names, Riedel, Zalto, Spiglau are probably, for wine lovers, household names. What was it that you really set out to do with Glassvin that was different from what was already on the market? And was there one glass that was like your inspiration? I want to make it, this level, but at an affordable price?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the 1,000 pound gorilla in the room for what we do is basically Zalto, and that was definitely like the inspiration for sure to like try to create something at that level. A fraction of the price. I think today Zalto's kind of become less relevant, and it's more of a Riedel kind of game, and they've come out very very strong as well. So we definitely play both sides now, but definitely at the time it was more of like a uh, counterpoint to Zalto.
Sort of an aspirational, it's an aspirational glass. And I know it's a glass that many people try to find, but they can't. And so how did you come to create your glassware? And I Coravended myself a little Chateau Moussard in this glass
Great.
for today's interview. But how did you come to create this? What is the differentiating point for Glassfin? Obviously, I know price, but tell me about the construction of the glass and how you went about finding these amazing craftspeople.
Well, I'll start by saying I just had a 98 Chateau Moussard in, of all places, Nanjing in China. So, uh,
Amazing.
yeah, great choice of a wine. But yeah, like I think look, like these glasses are not forever. They're going to break at some point. So it really hurts when you break like an $80 glass, and that's kind of what I set out to help alleviate the pain of a little bit. And the first idea wasn't necessarily to like you know make my own glass. It was to like find something to import, or something like that. And other people have done that and done that very successfully and done that really well. But at some point I was in that like entrepreneurial process. I was like, I should just create a brand around it instead of jumping onto someone else's brand. So it was pretty quick that I decided to just like try to make my own brand. And I figured out it was doable, which wasn't is not obvious. But I that's that was maybe like the main thing that I figured out, that it was doable to just do it myself and get the price really really down, which you wouldn't be able to do if you were importing someone else's brand.
Gotcha. And tell me about the construction. They seem so light, but I know that in doing research on your website, in addition to being light, they're also a bit more durable than some of the thin glassware we see on the market. And if you folks go to glassvin.com, there's some great pictures of the molds and how these are made. But in general, tell me a little bit about hand blown glassware versus manufactured glass and how that process is done, and then we can talk about why it's important for wine.
Yeah, so I think I don't want to oversell the like it's probably like similar durability to other thin kind of like ultra thin glassware. I think it is like ultra thin glassware is probably going to break more than like your standard kind of glassware that you buy at IKEA or whatever. But it actually is more like there's a little bit more give in the glass. Like it is meant to like bend a little bit, just like based on how it's made versus the really rigid kind of glass. So it's actually not that much less durable than
Hmm.
like a very very rigid glass. But with that said, like for example, the stem is very very thin, so like where like you're not really realistically going to break. Yeah, exactly. Like that part might be a little bit less durable, but obviously you don't have to like put any stress on that. So
Hmm.
like when you're washing it,
Yeah.
for example, like you don't need to stress that part of the glass. So it's not realistically going to break there unless if something stressful happens to it.
And the people that are actually blowing this glass, creating this glassware, where is this taking place in the world?
So the majority of our production occurs in China,
Okay.
happens all over China. We also make a little bit in Europe as well, but the majority of what we do is in China.
Okay. And I know when I'm doing wine education, whether it be corporate events or consumer events, when I talk about glassware and I talk about, investing in good hand blown crystal glassware, one of the benefits of that is that when you are swirling your wine in a glass like this versus a clunky manufactured glass, you're actually vaporizing more of the wine, which makes it more accessible to your nose. And 80% of tasting wine is smelling. So is that the idea for you, or are there any other benefits that you see in having a glass like this versus any old wine glass you could find?
It definitely makes the swirling a much more pleasant thing to do. But generally, just like one, obviously, like just raising the glass off the table and putting it to your mouth and putting it to your nose. With like wine is not like beer or something like that. Like you're just doing that all night long versus other drinks. So that's like a primary benefit that why people enjoy it. But the idea is just like it's just less material between the wine and yourself, and that does improve the experience a lot. Like people who like fine wine are not drinking wine out of glasses that are heavy at this point in time.
Hmm.
Like people are choosing some lightweight glass, whether that be us or Zolto or something like that. It's just like you wouldn't buy like $100 bottle of wine and then put that in like a $20 glass. Like you just wouldn't do that. So
Doesn't make
it
sense.
doesn't make sense exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. And I think also the experience of sipping, tasting the wine with a thinner rim is just a better experience. It's less in the way of tasting the wine on your palate. So I think that is also a positive. This is your all purpose glass. Thank you for sending me some of your samples. But I also have a short coupe. You have a whole variety of different styles of glasses. Tell me, why did you decide to do all of these? This is a whiskey tasting glass. My husband will be happy to use that. So, how did you decide how many styles to have out there when you were designing your line?
Yeah, I think like we started with just one style, because it takes energy and time and capital or whatever to like, add more stuff. So we started with one, the universal, which I think that's what you're drinking out of. I think it's called the
Yes,
universal. And that's still
it
like,
is.
our best selling glass. That's like like not the majority, but like a very, very substantial part of our revenue still. And then we just started expanding that into other things that our customers needed, like larger like Burgundy, Bordeaux kind of bowls. We expanded into like champagne. They're not flutes, but like kind of champagne glasses. And then from there we went into cocktail glasses. So which is what you showed as well, which is that I mean that one, for example, I was designed with Saga and Overstory, like the people behind Crown Shy. And so, that's sometimes what we do is we'll work with other other companies who know what they're doing, but more than I do, frankly, with the glass, and we'll put something else out there that we think fits nicely into our portfolio. Our kind of philosophy would be to try to not like create too many versions of the same glass. Like we don't want to give people like there's a paradox of choice in the world of wine glasses as well. So we already, like, I used to kind of make fun of some other companies for having like hundreds of glasses on their website. I mean, we are kind of now like we're doing the wrong, like we have 20 or so, or 20 to 30 or something SKUs as well now. So I'm like eating my words a little bit, but we're just trying to keep the SKU count as low as possible to, if people want like a rocks glass, like there's one option really that they go for. They want a martini glass, there's one option they go for. So try to like keep the SKU count down and like give people just like the best of what we think they should get.
Great. And if you're going to wash your glasses, what is the perfect way to wash one of your glasses to maintain it and be careful not to have any breakage, because that's a sad moment?
Yeah, like there's no better way than just putting it on in the dishwasher, bottom rack facing down. If you're a commercial customer, then obviously commercial glass rack in a dishwasher as well. That's the best way to wash your glasses.
Interesting, because I would put it on the top rack. So I'm learning
Yeah,
something. I like
so
this.
yeah, because, well, to be clear, like if it fits in the top rack, but most dishwashers, like it wouldn't fit in the top rack. When people talk about the top rack, usually they're putting it like this, and then there's like something that you're attaching the base to. Like it's like a thing that they made, which that
Yes.
is not like that will break the stem, and we will not like replace that stem for you if that's how it breaks, because clearly that stem is like very thin, and
Hmm.
if it breaks because it was touching something. So yeah, definitely bottom rack facing down. Nothing's touching the stem at that point. It's just the bowl that's touching it. The bowl isn't going to break in the dishwasher. It's really the stem that breaks in the dishwasher, and that's how you don't break the glass.
Yeah. And I think what you're referencing is you have a guarantee on your glassware line that if it breaks in the dishwasher, as long as you're putting it in the dishwasher correctly as you've instructed us, that you will replace that stem, which is that's amazing customer service, I have to say. But I know a lot of your customers are restaurants in addition to just, wine lovers and enthusiasts. And so give us just a couple of highlights of different places that are using Glasvin in their restaurant scene.
Absolutely. So, our strongest market is New York City. We're probably like in, a third of like the kind of the restaurants that have Michelin stars, just one. Not that Michelin stars are everything, but that's like one measure of the restaurants. For example, like we are in like Junsik, 3 Michelin star restaurant. They just became 3 Michelin stars. We're in Gabriel Cruther, 2 Michelin stars. Crown Shy, 1 Michelin star, and list goes on and on and on. We also have this, like, we call it the home line, but it's also used in tons of restaurants. Like for them, we just call it like the GV line versus Glasvin line, which is like our slightly more durable, less expensive option. And that's used in like, just they're also used in Michelin star restaurants like Cote and Kokodak, things like that. So yeah, just if you're into like fine glassware as a restaurateur in a major city like New York City, Glassman is definitely something that you're going to be considering when you buy glasses for your restaurant.
Nice. I love that. And at the end of the show, we're going to give out a code if folks want to go to the website and replace all their wine glasses with the Glasvin. It's going to be a 10% discount. So I'll give that out at the very end of the show. But in 2020, Food and Wine Magazine awarded you one of the best new wine products. Did that feel like validation that you had finally become one of the big players in this marketplace?
That was crazy when it happened. I sent a sample to the editor there, Ray Isle. I don't know if you know him. I don't know if he's
Yeah, I
been
do
for,
know, right?
but yeah, he put it on that list, and that was like absolutely massive. That was probably like our first like major press thing, and there was no, like, I didn't have a press PR person at that time. So it was just me sending samples to press. This was 2020, so I started in 19, but like we started selling in 2020. So this was like very, very, very early in the process.
Mm,
And yeah, I don't know if that was like validation or whatever, but
it
it definitely felt great. And
doesn't hurt.
now, I feel like now, if you search up like Glasvin, you'll find lots of articles that write about us. But yeah, he was definitely like Ray was like very, very early on the, like bandwagon for Glasvin. So we really appreciate that.
One more thing about Glassware, then we're going to talk about Somm.ai. But I noticed on each of the boxes you feature a different artist, and it's called the Artist Series, and the whiskey has a different artist. This is a photography piece. Some of them are pieces of art. Is that something that you're passionate about? What was the inspiration to link these glasses back to artwork?
It's more like that. It just looks nice, I think.
Okay, honest.
But yeah, like I was more like inspired by like wine labels. So like some of my favorite wine labels are basically just like, a piece of nice looking art effectively. So like for example, I'm a big like beer lover, for example, and like Cantillon, a lot of their, it's just like their word Cantillon and like a thing like of art.
Piece of
And
art.
then another example is like Labé, for example, has really nice labels. Labé, like the Jura wine, Labet, and also just like the word Labé and then like a nice big label. So that's kind of what I was inspired by. And then obviously in my just like daily life, I come across lots of people who do this kind of stuff, and they love having their stuff on it, and I love having their stuff on it. So the just
Yes.
came together really, really well. So yeah, we're always looking for new stuff to put into our new products, and
Love
sometimes
that.
old
And these
products.
are a piece of art. It's a functional piece of art, of course, but um, if you think it's handmade, it's a craft, so it is a piece of art. So I think it's a
Absolutely,
great
yeah.
tie-in. All right, so obviously you come from the world of numbers and finance, and you also have now created Somm.ai. And you're helping wineries and other wine companies harness data, make decisions, and more. Tell me a little bit about Somm.ai. What does it do, and how did you get into creating AI when you were focused on glassware?
Yeah, so the history is actually, so I quit my job to start Somm.ai, and then like a few months after that, I created Glasvin, was in hindsight an excellent thing to have done. Now Glassfin's like a bigger company than the software even, but yeah, the software basically it scrapes a ton of wine lists. I mean, all basically we try to go after as many wine lists as we can. Um, in the US and globally, and then we take all that data down, and then we put it into a portal, and we sell that portal to the various wine brands. They're mostly US wine brands. Our data is mostly US, so it's a fairly US focused kind of thing. We also have some international clients. We also have non-wine stuff. We have like spirits and food. Like when we take that data down, we take down everything, including the menu items, like the food items, for example. So all that data, we package it into a nice little interface, and then we sell that to the brands.
Great. And is there? So I would imagine they can see how represented they are on wine lists
Yep.
across the country as you download all that. But is there any way to tie that back to sales, or you're just assuming a certain level of sales based on representation?
We do have some estimates of sales, but yeah, we don't know the exact sales, nor would the restaurant want us to know exactly how much of each wine they're selling, nor would like the competitor brand want like their competitor brand to know how much sales they're having. But we'll give some good estimates of that. But knowing that you're at a restaurant or not at a restaurant, and most importantly, it's about like which restaurants you're not in that your competitors are in, because obviously your competitors have done their homework as well, and like they're in the restaurants that they think are going to generate the most sales. So that's really the value of the product, is being able to see. If I had software right now that told me every single restaurant that had Zalto, that uses Zalto, I would pay quite a large sum of money to get that list, so I can start calling them and being like, "Hey, would you like to try some Glasvin?" And that's effectively what
Right.
we're.
I gotcha. And there's a lot of talk. I mean, obviously, your product is different, but there's a lot of talk in the industry about the whole idea of AI replacing a SOM and
Yeah,
even giving
it's
a
a bit of a
consumer. What'd you
misnomer.
say?
I said it's a bit of a misnomer. Like I don't know. I just random thought of this name, and people
It's
now like some people like
brilliant.
very few people know what Somm.ai is, but like of those that group of people, like of an even smaller amount of people think that we're like trying to make a AI sommelier, which is not actually not what we're doing. And there's some companies that are trying to do that, and
Yeah.
that's not a unfortunately not a good business. But I mean, in a way, like when we started, like it was more for like consumers. Like I was gonna just use it myself, for example, to like find where all like the best wines were, and that's like why I named it like an AI song, because I could ask it like like where like where I could find like DRC, or not that I'm drinking DRC that much, but like where I could find Over Noir or Le Bay or Ravenel or whatever, something like that. That was like the initial idea of it. That it just shifted to being more like a B2B thing, which interestingly is a good business. And I just kept the name and didn't rename it to something else. So, and now we even do like
Gotcha.
food and stuff. So it's not even necessarily
Right.
a wine and spirits related anymore. But I just kept the name. And if someone wants to buy the name Somm.ai, because it's a nice name, feel free to offer me a large sum of money, and I'm happy to rebrand it to something else.
And then you will be drinking DRC if that happens. But that brings me to a question I love to ask. And so I have this concept of like the death row wine, which would be like the last wine. If you had this is the last wine you're ever going to have. What would that be for you? Of course, in a glass, but what is that wine if you had to just pick one? What would that be?
Oh man,
I know
that's
it's
so
heartbreaking because we love so many things, right?
really hard. Like I think it might be like like Ravenel or Dovey Sad or whatever. Like I'm not gonna pick a
Nice.
side on that one. I'm gonna alienate some people, but yeah, I think because I love red wine. Like I drink way more red wine than white wine,
Okay.
just because like there's just so many like there's way more options for like good red wine versus good white wine.
Mm,
So the fact that like they're able to make Chardonnay taste that good is incredible. So
that's
um,
amazing.
yeah.
Awesome. Mine is an Aldo Conterno 1999
Oh,
Barolo
nice.
Grand Bucia. It has to be the Grand Bucia.
I was actually thinking, like it for a second it popped up like something like a Darcy. I don't know if like the Longhi Nebbiolo there. Or I guess they make some Barolos too. But I like for a
Yeah.
second that popped up. So yeah, I agree with your Nebbiolo. I think that's like up there as
Awesome.
well.
Well, this has been amazing. If folks want to check out your glassware, some AI, just give people where they should go to connect with you.
Yeah, I mean, like just our website's probably the best way to go. Glasvin is GLAS.VIN. But if you misspell it, I probably bought that domain too, so bring you back to where it is. And then if you're a brand, then Somm.ai. You know,
Perfect.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been so illuminating. I now have a new favorite wine glass for my Musar. Thank you very much. And David, I really appreciate your time. And thanks for coming on the Sipping Point. Cheers.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks.